this evening. Now I feel like it's been a while since we've done some paranormal stories, so tonight I've got a bit of a best of episode of the paranormal subreddit. So I've got 3 incredibly spooky and true ghost stories for you, so I hope you guys are excited. With that being said, and of course, as always, without any further ado, let's get into tonight's stories, shall we? Alrighty. So the first story for tonight was originally posted to Reddit by a user called Wispified. Now their story is called "Our Bizarre Experiences with the Forest Behind Our House Eventually Forced Us to Move Out." There we go. I was 8 years old when we first moved into the house on the edge of the forest. My parents had their doubts about buying a house with a backyard bordered by forest. They had concerns about wild animals getting into our bins or hurting our dogs, and they were worried that one of us kids might go too far into the trees and get lost. I mean, that's an understandable concern, but it was cheap. My dad liked the seclusion, my mum loved the house itself, and my siblings and I were excited about playing in the backyard and of course exploring the forest. Our first sign that something wasn't right was that our dogs were absolutely terrified of the forest. They never went into the forest for any reason. If a toy they had been playing with found its way past the tree line, they would refuse to retrieve it. And when one of us went in there, they would pace anxiously until we returned. Now on one occasion we had noticed the dogs staring at a spot in the forest in obvious distress, sometimes growling or barking, but we could never see anything there. I mean, I think it is a well-known fact that dogs see things and sense things that we can't. I mean, you only have to look at, dogs that are getting used to, find cancer in people and stuff like that. I mean, they are incredible animals. My brother once carried one of the dogs into the trees to show her that there was nothing scary about it, but she wriggled out of his grip and sprinted into the house in a panic. I don't know, I find that kind of sad for the dog. I know it wasn't with bad intentions, but she's being forced in there. Now, if we were in the backyard when it was getting dark, we sometimes heard noises like someone was walking through the forest, sticks crunching underfoot, branches being pushed aside, etc. If we called out, there was no response, but if we shone a flashlight around, we would occasionally catch a glimpse for just a split second of something that we could swear looked like a person walking around in the dark. My parents quickly seeing a shadowy figure standing right at the edge of our backyard. She says that there was something wrong with it, like it wasn't quite standing on the ground, and it was a little too tall to be a person, and it looked sort of distorted. Now she was convinced that it was staring at her. She then called out for our dad, saying that there was a man in the yard staring through the window, and when he ran outside to chase off whoever it was, she continued to watch the figure through the window. It didn't move. It didn't run away, but when the light from our dad's flashlight passed over it, it just suddenly wasn't there anymore. We also regularly heard knocking at the back door at night, but with no one there. Our parents thought it was teenagers just playing pranks and stopped even bothering to open the door, until one rainy night, when the knocking was persistent and agitated. My mum pointed out that there might be someone needing shelter from the heavy rain outside, but when she opened the door, not only was there no one there, but there were not even any wet footprints on the porch or anything. The knocking continued the whole time we lived there. It would happen several times in the span of a few weeks. Then it would stop for months at a time, and then it would start up again. My parents eventually installed a security camera, and there was never anyone at the door. The camera wasn't all useless though. About 3 years into living there, my brother started having night terrors and sleepwalking. When he went sleepwalking, he would always go out the back door and start walking towards the forest. My mum, being a very light sleeper, would hear the door open and would run out to get him before he made it into the forest. After the 3rd or 4th time this happened, my brother asked to see the camera footage because he wanted to see how he looked when sleepwalking, I guess thinking it would look funny. The footage showed him walking out onto the porch, then pausing as if listening to something, and then shaking his head, and then reluctantly walking forward as if being pulled or forcefully guided by something. Now one evening my dad was in the backyard and he heard my sister calling him from the forest, seemingly in distress. Thinking she had gone exploring in the forest and fallen over and hurt herself, he ran in and started calling to her, but quickly realized it was too dark to see her, and he couldn't pinpoint where her voice was coming from exactly. He shouted for her to stay where she was and wait until he grabbed a flashlight and came back. Now when he ran into the house for the flashlight, he saw my sister inside, safe and completely unconcerned. At the time, my dad hadn't told us about hearing my sister's voice in the forest, so when I heard my mum's voice coming from the forest months later while I was outside with the dogs one evening, I didn't question it, despite the fact that I had seen my mum inside recently and hadn't noticed her walk past me. My mum was calling to me saying that she had gotten her sweater caught up in some branches and needed me to come in and help her. As I walked in, the dogs started barking, alerting my dad, who saw me through the window just wandering straight into the forest. He came outside and called to me, and I said, "I'm just gonna go and help Mum." He yelled back that Mum was inside and I needed to run back to the house as fast as I could, which I did. my parents had a fence built around the backyard and started looking for a new place to live. In the time between the fence being built and us moving out, it got way worse. We would hear knocking at the door more regularly, as well as tapping on the windows, as if someone was walking the perimeter of our house and trying every single window. We would often hear scratching and scraping sounds on the fence and voices beyond it. My brother's night terrors got more frequent, and one night my mum didn't hear the door open when he went sleepwalking, and he woke up standing at the fence, just staring into the forest with the dogs barking at him. The last morning we spent there, less than 4 years after we moved in, we woke up to find the back door fully open. Now the security camera footage showed it slowly swing open on its own. Since moving out, my brother's sleepwalking has stopped, though he still gets night terrors and he suffers from pretty severe anxiety. A few nights ago, he called me out of the blue, and after a bit of small talk, he asked me if I think the door being opened that final night means whatever was out there finally got in. He was trying to make light of it, saying that he was just getting into the Halloween spirit, joking about how maybe we should all just get exorcised just in case something latched onto us all those years ago. But I think that he's still deeply bothered by everything that happened. I know I still am a little. I still get nervous around dark wooded areas. I don't know what I think was out there in the forest behind our house at night, but I get the feeling that, given the chance, it would have swallowed us whole. Wow, that's crazy, man. That is so scary. I think, to be honest, that the brother is still, like, the most affected by this, and it seems that throughout these happenings, the brother was the one who was the most affected, right? Because he would get the night terrors, he would be sleepwalking, and he would be drawn to the forest by some kind of force, right? Also it seemed. So he seemed to be the person who was most affected in the first place. So I think that to this day he's still affected by it. And him saying, like, in a jokey way, like, we should all get exercised just in case, I don't think was a joke. I think he actually wants that, because I think part of him believes that something actually did latch on to one of them. And I mean, I'm guessing he thinks it's him. I can't imagine what kind of effect that has on your further life when you experience something like that in your own house. Because, like I've said many times before, your house is supposed to be a safe space, and when that is corrupted, I mean, what do you have, right? You have nowhere to go. Like I said though, the dog's reacting so, like, heavily to it, to that forest. I fully believe that dogs can see things and sense things that humans can't. It's really creepy to me though that whatever was in that forest was mimicking the voices of the members of the family to try and lure them in. Like, that is something that scares me so much. Is it like Wendigos that do that, or am I wrong? just some sort of demon. I don't know. I don't know too much about the paranormal. I'm definitely not an expert, but like I pick things up here and there, and that is definitely something I've heard before, and it bloody terrifies me. I don't know about you guys, but being able to like mimic somebody's voice, no, absolutely not. I'm glad they moved out of the house though, and they all stayed safe. Well, relatively safe. I'm sure they felt quite unsafe while living there. I'm glad they got away. I feel sorry for the brother though, because he is clearly still suffering from it. Moving on to the next one. Now this story was originally posted by a Reddit user called Duskmuse711, and their story is called Apparently I Babysat More Than One Kid. When I was 13, I babysat a little girl named Emma, who was one of the sweetest kids you could think of. I was a regular babysitter for her, so much so that when I couldn't babysit her for a few months, she called all the other babysitters by my name. Oh, that's really sweet. I mean, you can only hope that you can make such a positive impression on somebody, right? So, the story I'm about to tell you happened after I came back to be Emma's regular babysitter again. Now, one night, it was about 10:30, and I had already put Emma to bed, and I had just been watching TV. Now, the house was set up in a way that the front half was open, and the living room, the dining room, and the kitchen were side by side. Now, in between the living room and the dining room was an open doorway to the back half of the house. At one end was Emma's room, and at the other end was her parents', with the bathroom connected to the parents' room. Wow, this is a really confusing explanation. I hope you kind of are following this, because I'm having a hard time picturing it. But anyways, while sitting on the couch, I heard something run down the hall to the bathroom. Assuming it was just Emma going to the bathroom, I let her be for a few minutes, and then after a few minutes I heard the footsteps heading back down the hallway. Now I turned to tell her to go back and to make sure she had flushed, because I didn't hear a flush, but I only saw the tips of black hair that had run past the open doorway. Now here's the problem. Emma is blonde. Now I quickly jumped up and I rushed to Emma's bedroom, just throwing open the door. Her nightlight was just about bright enough to make out her shape as she was sat up and looked at me, rubbing her eyes in confusion. I asked her if she had been to the bathroom, and then she shook her head. Now I did a once over her room, checking under her bed and a quick peek in her closet. Now I didn't see anything or anyone, and I just told Emma that I was double checking for monsters. I mean, that's enough to scare a kid, right? said something. Don't scare her. I really like her. Now, I didn't say anything to the mum about what happened and continued to babysit Emma until they moved away. I always made an effort after that to include the being. If Emma was drawing, an extra spot was set up for her friend. It seemed to make Emma happy, and nothing ever startled me again. Blimey, I mean, kids can be so scary when they make up imaginary friends, and like, they invent these really creepy backstories around them. Like, or they will like make up really creepy descriptions for these imaginary friends. But when that imaginary friend turns out to not be so imaginary, so much so that this babysitter had an actual paranormal experience in the house, I mean, that is taking it a step too far. I mean, lots of kids go through a phase of imaginary friends, and lots of families then like set up a spot at the dinner table or whatever for this imaginary friend, and it's a phase, and a lot of kids go through it. But if you've experienced it, if you've seen the tips of the black hair of the imaginary friend, and you've heard the footsteps, I mean, no, we are not setting up any spaces at the dinner table for them. No. That is taking it more than a couple steps too far, right? Right? Don't mess with the paranormal, right? I mean, there's no proof of the paranormal, but do you want to take that chance? Really? Right? I don't. I have one more story for you guys. One more ghost story. Alrighty, moving on to the last one, and this one was originally posted to Reddit by a user called Princess 343. Their story is called Francis. Now, months back, on a Sunday, I was having a nightmare where I was yelling for someone to leave and they wouldn't. I mean, I think we've all experienced that, right? Or, wanting to leave yourself but you can't run anymore. Anyone ever experienced that? I know I have. Now, I wake up to see this cloud of mist at the foot of my bed, and it just glides out of the room. The whole time I'm watching this, sleep-addled obviously, and I'm just like, oh cool, it's leaving. Then it dawned on me what I saw, and I got spooked. But obviously there are a dozen ways to argue that didn't happen, so although I know what I saw, I was like, not worth it. Now my thermostat is in my living room. I know the consistent temperature of my apartment, even all throughout the night, because I do a decent amount of all-nighters. Now the big thing with ghosts is that they have a cold presence. Now on Sundays I will always wake up sweating buckets with the furnace running constantly, as though the thermostat is measuring the house as really cold, but this only happens on Sunday nights. just addressed the ghost, being like, hey, let's set some ground rules. What's your name? Francis. I'ma call you Francis. I don't mind you, but you can't be messing with me, ruining my sleep schedule. Now, after I said this, the random intense furnace stuff stops. But still, someone could say that it was all in my head. Selective stuff or some logical debunking. Now, I will casually talk to Francis just when I get home from work. Hey Francis, I'm home, or whatever, kind of funny. Now Sunday, before the start of my 3-day overnight shifts, I go, yo Francis, I'm gonna be doing overnights the next 3 nights, so you got the place to yourself. No parties though. Now Tuesday night, my same friend is over and I'm running late for work by at least a half an hour. Now clearly Francis is kinda salty because I'm not giving him the space I told him. My friend can't find their socks anywhere while I'm getting ready for work. Get this, I go to the bathroom to brush my teeth and their socks are up on the shelf in my bathroom. I'm like, what the fuck, Francis moved your socks? There is no way in hell those socks were there before. I was in the bathroom earlier that night and they were not there, and my friend never went into the bathroom the whole time they were over. That's the most unexplainable experience of it all. When I'm leaving my driveway, my car always shines its lights through the back door window all the way to the door of the downstairs neighbours. Now I'm nosy, so I always peer through. That night I didn't, but my friend did, and they jumped in their seat, swearing they saw a pale old man staring at them through the window. I didn't see it, so it could still be brain playing tricks all along with the trick of the light, although I've never had a weird glare or reflection anytime I look through that window. So the next morning, I decided to message my landlord asking about the ghost. Now, he had never had tenants talk about hauntings, so I go on telling him about Francis. Now he stops me mid-sentence because Francis used to own the house and lived there decades ago. What? Wow. Also, I would always shrug off the constant times I would wake up from a nap or go to one of my doors and see it was unlocked. I'm a forgetful person, same, and didn't grow up locking doors. Now I did, so I can't really say that. I'll often even be like, oh yeah, I recall forgetting to lock it when I come home and find it unlocked, but sometimes I don't recall forgetting to lock it. And now I'm thinking that's because Francis will be opening that when he's moving around the house. Just to clarify, my apartment is half on the second floor of an old house that was built in the 1860s. It still has the original frame, and actually the front door is the original door. So it's not like an apartment complex or anything, it's just an old Victorian style house in a small city in upstate New York. Now call me crazy or old-fashioned, but I have always heard that if you're dealing with the paranormal, don't engage, and definitely do not name your ghosts, right? Now in the case of this Redditor, it looks like they just asked the ghost for its name and it was Francis. And it so happens that Francis used to own the house. I love how, I say love, I mean I do not love how that is just briefly mentioned in this post, and I they're still living there or what. And if they are still living there, I hope it carries on going extremely well with Francis, because I am worried. I am worried. This Redditor should not be so amicable with this entity, right? I would not feel comfortable doing that. You know, it starts with moving socks, but where does it end, right? Where does it end? If Francis wants you out, you're going to be getting out. Alright, you guys, sadly, that is all for tonight's paranormal stories. I hope you liked tonight's episode. I hope you had fun. I hope you were able to relax. I hope you were able to get spooked. Thank you so much for once again choosing to hang out with me tonight, and I hope I will see you for next week.